The race for the next Pickens County Sheriff is on. A crowded Republican primary with 5 candidates making their case to voters. It's a race we're watching closely here at Fox Carolina News ahead of the June 11th primary. And one of the candidates running for Pickens County Sheriff is Tommy Blankenship. So, Mr. Blankenship, thank you so much for taking some time with us. You are running for Pickens County Sheriff, and I like to start all these the same exact way. Why are you running for sheriff, and what originally motivated you to do so?
That's a great question, Justin. So I would have to say, if I could sum it up into one line, why am I running for sheriff, is because I want the men and women of Pickens County Sheriff's Office and the communities of Pickens County to have the sheriff and the leader that I always wanted as an employee. I've been there for 19 years this month, and I've worked for 2 different sheriffs in that time. And I think anybody would agree, anytime you've worked at any location for long enough through different leaderships, there's certain things that you garnish from them, positives and negatives, and then just want to be the change that I want to see.
So you say the change and the leader that you want to be. So what are some of those priorities? What are some of those attributes that come to mind when it comes to that leader and that change that you want to install?
Oh, absolutely. So the first thing is you hear so many people talk about leadership from the front, but I want people to understand that I truly live that. When I ask deputies to do anything, it's nothing that I haven't done myself. When I set standards on them, it's the same standards that I put upon myself. I just came from training jiu-jitsu before I came here. It's a pastime that I enjoy, but I think it's very important for law enforcement. It's actually one of the things that, as the current training officer, I have brought to our agency to utilize in our defensive tactics, because it creates an environment where officers are more confident in themselves, so they are less likely to engage in use of force incidences. But even if they do get involved in those incidences, they are less likely to injure the suspects, and they're less likely to suffer injuries themselves. So it's things of that nature. When it comes to physical fitness, I believe it's absolutely an important aspect of law enforcement, that officers take care of themselves, both in physical training but also in the way that they eat, because at the end of the day, you can't be of service to people if you're not taking care of yourself. Proficiency with firearms, I've been a member of the SWAT team since 2007. I'm actually currently the deputy commander of the SWAT team. So I go out and regularly train with my weapons to make sure that I'm proficient. So I would be a sheriff that not only loves the officers, not only takes care of them, not only has experience in some of the day-to-day administration activities, but also is well versed in all of the aspects that you require a deputy to be good at.
You mentioned some of that experience, your experience on the SWAT team as a training officer, 19 years with the Pickens County Sheriff's Office. As a whole, what experience do you bring to becoming the next sheriff?
Okay, so, well, I started at the Sheriff's Office in 2005 as a uniform patrol officer, and that's the backbone of every agency. That has to be the focus of the administration, is to make sure that you're taking care of those men and women, because they're your frontline officers. And those individuals are the face of your agency, and if you're not caring for them, then you're going to fail the very people that you're sworn to serve. So it's that balance of taking care of those officers so that they can take care of the citizens. After that, I worked the majority of my career in vice and narcotics. I spent a large portion, it was a little over 11 and a half years, working undercover drug operations, working prostitution operations, working illicit gun sales, ammunition sales, explosive sales, and also have done some murder for hire cases. I spent a lot of time working with the state grand jury unit through SLED and their narcotics unit. And that's probably the biggest thing that I think I bring to the stage, is an understanding of how those investigations work intrinsically, so that we can get a better reach, because the individuals that are poisoning our communities, they know no jurisdictional lines. And so understanding how those cases work and being an integral part of those for over a decade brings a large amount of experience to the Office of Sheriff.
And that's exactly what I want to ask you about. Such a big issue here locally, across the country, overdose deaths,
yes.
Fentanyl. How do we curb that?
Yeah.
And how would you do it as sheriff?
Well, it's funny you ask that. So just this morning, I was doing a drug education program for a company in Pickens, South Carolina, or in Pickens County. They're actually based out of Liberty. But first and foremost, education is key. You know, you talk about fentanyl. We are absolutely suffering from just a huge influx of fentanyl being distributed within our communities. And you say overdose, a lot of times I like to use the word poisoning, because so many of the individuals that we see that lose their life to fentanyl didn't do so with the intentions of using fentanyl. Many of them thought they were using Xanaxes or alprazolams. Many of them thought they were using a different, now they were seeking self-medication outside of the law, but they didn't intentionally ingest fentanyl, and they definitely didn't intentionally ingest enough to take their life. So first and foremost is education. Myself and some other guys at the agency have taken it upon ourselves to reach out and try to find any avenue where we can do fentanyl education. Because first and foremost, people need to know that the danger exists, and they need to know all of the different avenues that they could come into contact with it. Sure. You know, it's not just this white powdery substance that you go to the street corner and buy from a drug dealer, but it can very easily be disguised as a prescription medication. It can be a counterfeit pill that looks just like what a doctor would prescribe. And that's the other aspect of that education, is the awareness that individuals that suffer from those addictions, they did not always start with the illicit drug trade. Many times it starts with a prescribed medication after a surgery, or dealing with some sort of debilitating pain that they've had to suffer through.
We have about 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
Real quickly, your stump speech to voters. Why you over all the other candidates?
Yeah. So the first and foremost is I believe that humility is the greatest, 100%, the first attribute that a leader should have. And that's who I offer myself as the humble leader. You know, my slogan is leadership through service. And I have been a servant my entire career. I didn't just start because I was running for office, start doing things in the community to serve them. I've been doing it outside of my role within the sheriff's office for many years. And I see the sheriff as the ultimate servant. Although he is the chief law enforcement officer, he is ultimately the servant to the people and to those that work at the sheriff's office.
All right, Pickens County Sheriff candidate Tommy Blankenship. Mr. Blankenship, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.